Hi all, my name is Taylor Ohlstrom and I'm really excited to be here today to present for the Emergency Home Learning and More Summit. Really excited to do this. I hope everyone is staying safe and sane well during these very, very strange times. So what we're going to talk about today is teaching secondary math during a pandemic. Like I said, my name is Taylor Ohlstrom, and hopefully these strategies will be helpful for you as you're teaching math during all of this. So super quick, if we were in person, I would share about myself. So we'll try and kind of do that as well. And let me move myself. There we go. So these are pictures of me and just things I'm invested in and in full support of. I am a huge Green Bay Packers fan. So go Pack Go. I'm super excited to be watching the NFL season right now. As it said on the last slide, I am also a national board teacher and a alumni of the Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms. I would highly recommend going through both of them. They are great professional development. On the right there, I also have two dogs. They are the best and have, of course, barked during our virtual learning time. On the more professional side, I have spent 7 years teaching in the great state of Colorado, in Colorado Springs and Denver. I am currently now teaching at Lakeside High School in Atlanta, Georgia. That far picture on the left is me with a couple of my students in Colorado Springs. I have taught at a variety of different schools and with a variety of different students, including Title I schools, students who are learning English as another language, students with special needs, gifted students. I've also taught in AP, IB, and concurrent enrollment programs. I really love teaching and really love teaching math. So before we get started for today, I really just want to kind of shape my talk and my presentation and just remind myself and remind all of us that we are all doing the best that we can right now. Teachers, students, parents, admin, support staff, everyone. And this quote over on the side by Mr. Rogers, I think really sums up what we are trying to do right now. And I think that's important to keep in mind as you're watching this. There's going to be a lot of information, a lot of resources. I'm sure you've seen on social media teachers who are doing incredible things, which is great. And all of us want to do incredible things as well. But again, give yourself grace and recognize that this is new for all of us and we're all doing the best that we can. Again, I think it's important to remember that our kids are also doing the best that they can. We are going through a pandemic right now in the United States. We are also going through a huge social movement. So again, please be sensitive to everyone as we are thinking about virtual learning. So kind of the goals during the presentation today, first is to just provide some structure for synchronous and asynchronous learning, both online and if you are in a hybrid format. I know some schools are shifting towards that model now that we are in October. Also, number two, present Ready Now resources for teaching math. When I say ready now, I mean it's things that you can create an account and you use in your classroom that day. So not a lot of pre-planning. And then the last one there, present some collaboration strategies for students while also adhering to the guidelines of our schools, including social distancing, masks, or potentially not being in school at all. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is asynchronous structure. I know for my classroom right now, we have our students asynchronous 3 days a week, and then we are able to meet with them synchronously 2 days a week. So the first thing that I would highly recommend is making videos for your students. I'm sure many of you are doing this. I would highly encourage you to make your own. I know there are really great resources out there, but our kids want to see us. They want to hear our voices and include your personality if you can. Like I said, I have two dogs that you saw at the beginning. They have barked during my videos and I've commented that. And again, my kids just enjoy seeing that I am human too. Number two on here, even if you are teaching upper level kids, so I have a class of calculus seniors right now, try and keep those videos as short as possible. I know for those of you that are on block schedules, that can be really hard when we are used to 90-minute blocks. But again, try and keep them as short because remember, our kids sometimes have to watch maybe 3 or more videos a day. So kind of give them the content light version, if you will, so our kids can get the information that they need. Number 3 on here, I always include some sort of accountability or exit ticket with a video, again, to hold my kids accountable for watching it, but also to inform my instruction when we do synchronous stuff. So whether it's an exit ticket, some embedded questions in the video, which I'll show you a resource later on for how you can do that, whatever that looks like. They could upload a document or a picture of their notes. Again, we just want to make sure that our students are staying accountable. I also teach freshmen, and I want to make sure that they are actually watching the videos. Number 4 on here, which is something I've tried to do a lot more of now, is having some sort of consistency or routine in your videos, and also where you are going to keep everything. So for those videos, I always start my kids off with just some quick review topic, and then we hop into the content, and then we do some of the application problems. Again, if I were in class, I might spruce it up a little bit more, maybe change it a little bit to keep it fresh for students. But right now during virtual learning, a lot of my kids are craving consistency and want to be able to know exactly how they should be doing things. Also, where you house them is very important, whether it's Schoology, Google Classroom, Canvas. I know there's a lot of different learning management systems out there, but just make sure you're consistent in your naming, where you are keeping them, how you are organizing them. The last thing on here, being explicit with what your students should be doing during asynchronous instruction. Do you want them to be taking notes? Do you want them to be responding on something? What exactly do you want them to do? Especially for our students who are just really struggling trying to keep themselves organized, this is important that you explicitly say in your video what you want them to be doing. In some of my videos, I've used different colors. So I've color-coded things in red that they need to write down in their notes, and maybe things in blue are side notes or things that are optional to write down. Again, just something to be very explicit about what students should be doing during your asynchronous time. For synchronous instruction, I know this looks different for everyone. Some of us are meeting with our students 45 minutes. Some of us are meeting with our kids for 90 minutes. Some of us are in person. Some of us are at home. It is definitely crazy right now. So I've tried to make this broad to meet the needs of everyone here. So first, a routine is so important. I cannot stress enough how much my students have appreciated a routine when we are doing synchronous learning, again, as if we were in class. So we start every class with a warm-up. They do some sort of review thing or maybe a prior knowledge skill that they'll need for that day. Then we hop into a little bit of direct instruction and then a lot of practice. Again, the more protocols and routines that you can have in place, the better. It's not going to go perfect the first time around, especially if you are kind of adjusting as we go. But the more you can do it, the better it'll pay off at the end of the day. Next, you would ideally have your students apply what they did in their asynchronous learning sessions. And so how I have my classroom set up right now is my students have to watch a video before coming to class. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Do some of my kids not watch the video? They don't. And I expect them to kind of like try it along the way and still participate in class the best that they can. But a lot of them have now realized that watching the video beforehand is key to understanding what goes on in class. So with applying that knowledge, again, you don't want it to be a ton of lecture, but giving students a chance to practice as if we were in class. You also want to be able to give them feedback on that application. Another idea for synchronous instruction that I have tried to do is some sort of live collaboration for kids. I know a lot of my students are struggling right now because they are not able to see their friends. They don't have that interaction that we normally would. So I try and incorporate some sort of live collaboration. Now, again, I understand that all of our situations are different. For example, the platform that my school district is using does not have breakout rooms right now. So sometimes you got to get a little bit creative for what live collaboration looks like. But again, something where in-class students can respond to each other and engage with each other. As the teacher, of course, we need to moderate and be cognizant of what our teenagers are posting. or saying to each other, and there are lots of different tools for this. This second to last one here, keep our activities timed and short. I have learned that a huge difference from in-person versus now is, in class I might be able to give an activity for 15 minutes and my students can work on it, collaborate with each other, all that sort of stuff. If I ask my students to work on a 15-minute activity virtually, it usually doesn't go that well because I can't monitor what they're doing. So I've chunked my in-person activities to be a lot smaller, especially for math. So I might ask them to just do part of a problem, we check it, and then we move on. And again, it's to keep the class moving and ensure that my students are with me as we're doing synchronous instruction. The last one here, again, it's all about accountability here and seeing what our students know. So always I ask my students to end with some sort of exit ticket. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a math problem. It could be a summary. It could be just asking them how they're doing that day. Again, something to just let them know that I'm checking in on them and want to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, but also that I care about them as students as well. So the next thing we're going to move into is a couple of different resources. I've labeled them as asynchronous and synchronous to divide it up a little bit, but of course they could go either way depending on your situation. The first thing, I am not endorsing any of these products. I want to make sure that that's clear. These are just some of the ones that I'm using daily in my classroom and I have found work best. But again, there are plenty of other resources out there. The first one that I use for my videos is EdPuzzle, and it's free, which is great because we're all on that teacher budget. So EdPuzzle is a great resource. It's really awesome because you can upload your videos and embed questions into them. It also grades it for you. It has a grade book in there. It's awesome. So with the questions that you can embed, they can be multiple choice or open response. Students can upload pictures, videos, whatever you would like for them to upload as responses there. This is great because, again, I can hold my students accountable for watching the videos. I can also see some misconceptions along the way. I love using EdPuzzle, and my students have said that they like it as well because it lets them check their understanding as they're going. Another great part of this, which sometimes it happens, we run short on time, there are some pre-made videos on there as well on a whole bunch of topics, including like upper level math, so derivatives, limits, things like that. Also all the way down to our 6th and 7th grade teachers here. There's a lot of great stuff that you can use. Another resource that I have been using, and we'll probably even use once we go back in person, is Delta Math. With Delta Math, it is a great homework platform that I found for my kids and really encourages mastery. I'm not gonna lie, the questions on there are not super high level, so they aren't really application-based questions, but it's great for just practicing like solving equations, or factoring, or even things within geometry like our parallel line theorems or things like that. It has a lot of great stuff up through calculus. I'm not gonna lie to my statistics teachers out there, there's not a lot on there for you, so I'm sorry, but I know that's something that they're thinking about adding. With Delta Math, it does, like I said, encourage mastery. You can set it so that students have to get a certain number of problems correct, so it will just keep giving them questions over and over again until they get 5 correct or 10 correct, however many it is. With this, there's also a lot of support on social media. There is a Facebook group that is specifically for Delta Math and Delta Math support. It's great. You get questions answered super quickly, and I love having that support really any hours of the day. There are lots of options for students in terms of what you can give them. There's some multiple choice questions, there's fill in the blank, there is, what else is there? Drop down menus, just lots of different options for students. There's also different levels of questions. So I created a chain rule assignment for my calculus class the other day, and there's chain rule like level 1, 2, and 3. You can also mix problem types. So let's say I want my students to practice segment addition and angle addition and like the midpoint theorem, since I teach a geometry class. I can include all of those in the same assignment. There is a paid version for Delta Math. And again, I don't endorse any of these products. It's just what I'm using. I do use the paid version and really like it. I think it's a great bang for your buck, and would love to talk more about that if that's something you're interested in. The last one that kind of bridges asynchronous and synchronous is Padlet. I love Padlet. I think it's super cute. My kids like it as well. For Padlet, it uses, it's basically an online discussion board, and it posts like little sticky notes is what it looks like. I've used it to support social emotional learning as well as math. So I've kind of used it both ways there. After our first unit for virtual learning, I asked my students to just respond how it went. What went well, what didn't go well, what should we change about our class. I've asked students to share silly questions about themselves, like if you were a food, what food best describes you. I've also used it, like I said, for math. So for summaries, students can upload pictures, a whole bunch of stuff on there. Again, like I said, you can upload a variety of media for students. So they can upload pictures, videos, I don't know what else is on there, honestly. Those are the big ones I think about. They can also just type on a Padlet. It is super user-friendly, especially as I'm thinking of our younger students. This platform is so friendly for them. They can just type, it posts, and it's good to go. As a teacher, you have a lot of control, which I know is great news for a lot of us as we are thinking about teaching teenagers. You can moderate the post, so there's an option where you can actually, if it detects a cuss word, it'll replace the cuss word. You can also have to approve posts before they go up, so that's another great option. If you are interested in doing Padlet stuff, like I said, it is a great resource and just gives you a lot of control as a teacher. I have only used it synchronously, but asynchronously, from what I've heard from some of my colleagues, is you can have students post their answers on there. You can have them respond to each other as like a discussion board. Again, kind of the possibilities are endless here. For synchronous instruction, as I'm sure many of us have heard, PearDeck and Nearpod, they do similar things, and it just depends on your preference or potentially your school district. They are great, and I've used PearDeck mostly in this last unit I've been teaching. I can embed questions and have students respond either with typing or drawings, which of course for us in math is awesome because I want to be able to see their work. I mostly use PearDeck, so I'm not as familiar with Nearpod, but with PearDeck, I know that I can see all of the students' drawings as they are doing it in real time. Students for PearDeck, I can also display student work without their names, which is awesome because it's something I would do in class quite a bit. So I might pull an exemplar for my kids. I might pull someone who made a really common mistake, but again, it keeps the student work private so no one knows whose work I'm showing there. For PearDeck and Nearpod, I know they have drawing options and typing options, which is great for our students who do not have access to a touch screen like many of my students. So they actually type out their math answers, and it takes a second, but once they get used to it, it's great for them. The big thing for me is I use Google Slides to do my teaching with, so both of these embed into Google Slides, so you can just add in questions through that. The other resource we will talk about with synchronous learning is Splashtop, Dosery, or Kami. They all kind of do the same thing. It allows you to write on the screen if you have some sort of tablet or touchscreen device. I have been using Dosery since my first year of teaching and have absolutely loved it because I can write on my tablet while being able to move around the room. For those of us who are looking for some real-time stuff with our students, these are great options. Kami allows you to write on PDFs, and Splashtop is kind of like a remote desktop option. Again, you can write in real time so students can see your work. And I know when we are teaching math, students might ask, well, where did you get that from? This way I can actually write on the screen so I can show them where I got the information from. Again, also being able to edit documents. It happens, we type a number wrong, I need to change the problem, whatever, it allows me to do that as well. I believe all of these have free options or free trials. Cami, I know, is free and then has a paid version as well, but the free version does everything that we need it to do. For this last part on resources, this is a link to a document I've kind of been compiling over virtual learning that has a whole bunch of different resources and different levels of where you are at with virtual learning. Like I said at the beginning, it's super important to give ourselves grace and freedom here as we're getting into this. I know there are teachers who are creating these super cute, like, virtual classrooms and all of this, and some of us are slowly but surely figuring out Zoom. So I know we are all over the place here. This link that is here, go ahead and you can go to it. And like I said, there's a whole bunch of different resources on there for virtual learning, including some of the ones that we've talked about as well. At the bottom of the document, there are more advanced options for you, including some for engineering, some like 3D platforms that you can use as well. So the last thing we'll talk about for my presentation is some collaboration ideas. I think this has been the hardest thing for me as a teacher, to not be able to see my kids collaborate and have them collaborate, because that's honestly some of the best parts of teaching, when I see my kids being able to interact and teach with each other. So the first way that I have my students collaborate is on a Padlet or some sort of discussion board. We are still 100% virtual. We also do not have breakout rooms available to us in our district. So using a Padlet or a discussion board and giving students parameters for how they should respond, how many people they should respond to, has worked out really well. Again, is it perfect? No, but it's the best that we can do with the resources that we have. If you are able to have breakout rooms in your school district, I highly encourage that you set some sort of norms for it. At the district I used to teach in Denver, talking with my colleagues there, they have found the most success is when they remind their students, sometimes daily and sometimes multiple times a day, of the norms for collaboration. Remember, students aren't used to this virtual world. They aren't used to looking at their classmates virtually. And for some of them, it's really hard to understand how to collaborate when they can't see another person. So again, sharing those norms and giving some examples of how students collaborate is really important. Again, if you don't have breakout rooms, which like I said, my district does not, I've also had my student collaborate within the Google Suite. This is great because I can also see what they are sharing with each other and writing, which I know is some of that classroom management piece there. Google Docs, Google Slides, Jamboard, which is like an online whiteboard, are great options so students can collaborate with each other, show their work, but maybe not necessarily be in a breakout room. I have recently tried this and it's gone well as of now. We'll see how it goes in the future, but I have been trying to be intentional about student input in their groups. Students know who they work well with. They also know who it might be a struggle with, similar to what we would do in the classroom with our seating charts or things like that. But you want to make sure to have input as well. And again, of course, telling your students that it may not be perfect, but we'll do the best that we can. Hopefully this encourages better collaboration with students if they know that they have chosen who they are trying to work with, and again, provides more rich discussion. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation on math. I know, there we go. I know it was a lot. There's a lot of information and we're all trying to do this together. As I have been kind of thinking through all of this quote by Nelson Mandela really, I think, resonated with what we're doing right now. It always seems impossible until it's done. I hope you know we will get through this. We will all, as teachers, end up on the other side of this virtual learning and pandemic. I know it's hard. I'm hurting as well as many of you, I'm sure, with not being able to see our students and teach like we normally would. I'm sure we all have really great days and we all have not great days. But again, we will get to the other side of this and look back and remember how great we did, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. My contact information is also on the screen. please feel free to shoot me an email. I love collaborating with other math teachers. Would love any resources that you have as well, because we're all trying to learn this together. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.